you don't have a baby because we are all animals. Intuitively, you don't feel hope. Right? You're very worried for the long term. You're not secure in your job. You don't feel confident in the company. The healthcare is terrible. You don't feel like you're going to get reemployed. You don't feel like dealing with the stress of being pregnant and people sort of saying, oh, she's. So I made a very high priority. I said, listen, if we want to have a company that's successful in the long term, and we're fulfilling our mission of having a sustainable community-based business, if you work full-time, why are you working so hard? If you want a family, you should have a family. I want to make it very easy for you to have a family. That means our company is doing so well. You have so much confidence in the long term of the business. Go start a family. Awesome. I hope your kids work at the company too one day. You know, I'm singing to a new forming world, a new group of leaders for the next 50, 60 years, and trying them to get them to have even more confidence that what they're doing is right. Someday, girl, look, I don't know when we're gonna get to that place where we really wanna go when we'll walk in the sun. But till then, tramps like us, yeah, baby, we're born to run.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Smart OC Forward podcast, an award-winning podcast. My name is Hieu Nguyen. I'm the founder and chairman of Smart OC. In this podcast, we normally bring the brilliant minds from around the world to share their story, expertise, and experience to our audience. And in today's episode, there's no exception. We also have a very brilliant leader who's gonna bring you a lot of interesting story. So let me welcome Professor James Rhee. Thank you very much for being here with us. Let me brief you about Professor Rhee. He's a Korean American. Professor James Rhee is a long-time private equity investor. He's also a Harvard University Entrepreneurship Chair, Duke's Law School, MIT Sloan Senior Lecturer, Yale Entrepreneur Artist in Residence. He's also a very well-known CEO and founder of many companies. Of course, the global best-selling authors of the very famous book, Red Helicopter. Professor Rhee is also the trustee of National Humanities Centers, Exponent's investment director, which managing like 22 billion US dollar. Former director of National Retail Federation, Harvard College and Harvard Law School, and you used to be editor of the Harvard Law Review. Former high school teacher. Interesting.
I'm most proud of that.
Yeah.
Actually, you know.
And in your profile, you also have husband and father of 3, which I really admire.
I am the most proud of that. I should say that again.
Yeah, I know it's a hard job, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. And very important, a musician.
A want-to-be professional musician who wished he was a professional musician but does not have the talent.
Do you want to play a piece of music with the guitar? Like to show us, to feel your music.
This is a lot of pressure. But this is a good sort of segue into the book, because the Red Helicopter, the company Red Helicopter, the book, it's an anthem. You know, I'm singing to a new forming world, a new group of leaders for the next 50, 60 years, and trying them to get them to have even more confidence that what they're doing is right. You know, particularly a lot of Asian Pacific leaders about where the world might go. Bruce Springsteen is one of the most iconic American rock stars, and so he sings at the end in Born to Run. He says something like, someday, girl, look, I don't know when we're gonna get to that place where we really wanna go when we'll walk in the sun. But till then, tramps like us, yeah, they were born to run. It's out of tune. Yeah, tramps like us, yeah, they were born to run. That's the ending of the song. It's a little out of tune.
Wow.
But what he's singing in that song, he's singing to a girl.
Yeah.
And he's outside her house. And he's in a car, and he's singing to her and saying, let's go on a journey. I don't know where it's going to end. Feel pretty good about it. It may have a lot of ups and downs, but
it's a freedom.
Let's go. And so I think I'm singing that generally to the world right now, particularly to young people who may feel stuck. We're slightly scared. And they have good reason to be, but I also think during times like this, there's tremendous opportunity to make like quantum leaps in systems change to really make an impact. And so that's the essence of what Red Helicopter is the essence of what I'm doing. So,
thank you so much. Yeah. Wow, you've been playing so many roles in your career and life. Which one do you think fit you the most? Fit your true you the most?
I think at my essence, I am a teacher. I come from a long line of caregivers. So my dad was a doctor, his dad was a doctor, his dad was a doctor. My mom was a nurse. Both of them lived through a war, like the Korean War. They both immigrated to the US. They started over again. So in a lot of ways, when I sing this song, I think about my dad singing this song to my mom and saying, you know, should we try out this place called America?
Yeah.
Let's try.
Yeah.
And so that's in my genes. It's a lot of caregiving, like deep concern for people's well-being. But also, I was raised by two people who lived through a war. So there was a lot of humility in terms of understanding the randomness of life. And so, yeah, my way of expressing this, my brother became a doctor. I'm the second son, so, you know, second son, they don't care as much about what I do. And so after I graduated from, you know, Harvard, they expected me to go and do more of what I ended up doing, which is go into business, make money. But I chose to teach high school for $12,000 a year to kids that were having a hard time with high school. And so that's my way of exhibiting care, is that I invest very heavily in people. I'm not a doctor, but in some ways in my professional life, I've been a doctor of businesses, where I'm diagnosing things and saying, you know, you're not as sick as you think. I think we can do this. There might be a cure. It's probably more simpler than you think. And so, yeah, I'm a teacher.
I mean, as a high school teacher, what did you focus on?
So when I was teaching high school, I coached sports, I ran a dorm, I taught 3-4 subjects, but my interest has always been in someone achieving full potential of themselves. So yeah, it's early on, I didn't like the way, even now, pedagogy businesses, they're set up very vertically. I don't live like that. So it's very round versus square, very lateral versus vertical. And so human beings, as much as we try to put them into a binary algorithm or into a box, human beings are not meant to be in a box. And so that's why I found most of my joy in business with entrepreneurs, who are by definition trying to be like Bruce Springsteen, and they're like busting out of boxes, right? They want to create new spaces. And so yeah, it's always overall circles of either a company, but particularly with people, like their overall balanced self.
Very nice. In our company, we have this slogan called, this is the people-centric company. We also focus on people. And
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, we build it. If you look at your life as a book, and you had many chapters, which one are you proud of the most? Which chapter? And what chapter are you writing? What content for the next chapter?
I did something that I think the world is beginning to understand better now. It was an odd decision, maybe even a stupid one in some ways, but I was proud of the fact, not what I did for those 7 years running Ashley Stewart, investing in it, doing something that was not prestigious. You know, it was maybe the least prestigious thing to do in terms of the demographic and the company. But I was more proud of the actual decision about that moment of doing it, of overcoming my own ego, of really wanting the best for these group of women who reminded me a lot of my mom. I think that for that moment in time, when you get into that mode, you never forget that feeling of being so clear about what the truth is, what's best for an overall group. It's the clearest I've ever been and most ego-free in my life. It was that moment. So in terms of chapters, I was proud of what we did for 7 years, but in terms of moments, it was the moment I decided to really, in many ways, like rip up all my resume, all the things you read, I ripped it up, and I did something that I thought was right, and I thought it was also correct, and I did it for the right reasons.
And for the next chapter, what are you writing?
Well, the next chapter is an anthem, right? It's called, I give it a silly name because anthems need names, right? So it's called Red Helicopter. I wrote a book called it, but the entire song that I'm singing to the world right now in style of Bruce Springsteen is imploring people to really embrace their agency during a time when there are a lot of forces that don't want you to. Right? When, particularly during times of fear and like global chaos, there will be people who will gladly take your decision making for you, right? And sort of scare you into compliance or scare you into false conservatism, scare you into a false sense of security that status quo is safe. And what I'm singing to the world is that there are times in the world and in a company's life when change and boldness and vision, those are actually the safest things to do. And so that's what I'm doing. I call it Red Helicopter. It's something that I've applied in my life to everything I do, whether it's my personal life, my private equity life, my investing life, my CEO life, my classroom life. It's the process that I've used that's replicable, that can really bring out agency and, you know, hopefully success on your terms.
Yeah. So can you share a little bit about the story of the Red Helicopter? I mean, where is this from and why you named your book?
I was at a moment when there was this company that served a lot of women, black women. And for you listeners out there, I'm not black, I'm not a woman, I'm not a retail CEO, but it was all of the things I just described. That's what the company was. And I had failed as the chairman of the board and then interim CEO to find them some money so that they could save the company and just continue on with their lives. And I had when you're in a situation like that, when the world is not very kind to you and they're sort of saying, what are you doing? The Red Helicopter story, which I'll relay, it was just a moment of clarity for me about who I am, why I do what I do in my past. And so the Red Helicopter story, it reminded me of a time, long time ago when I was 5, and it's a bittersweet story. I came home from school with a toy red helicopter, and my parents wondered why. And my parents were immigrants. Their English was not great, my Korean's not great, so we've always had miscommunication. It was very hard to communicate with my parents. Which is one of the reasons why, by the way, I'm very hyper-focused on very clear communication, whether it's words, math, music, art. Anyway, so they thought I stole the helicopter, the toy from school. I think it's pretty classic Asian parenting. What's wrong?
Yeah.
Right? It's not what's right, it's what did you do wrong? And they thought I took it, and then they thought they were wrong because they thought that they had missed an American custom. that maybe all kids exchange gifts in kindergarten. But anyway, they got frustrated with me because I didn't know why I got it. And so they found out later that I had been sharing half my lunch with this boy, and the father of the boy wanted to give me a gift and meet the boy who was feeding his son. And I didn't know why my friend never had food. I thought he was just sort of forgetful, right? I didn't know that his mom had died that summer. And so when my dad told me that this is why you got the toy, I felt very proud. I just was like, wow. Like, I didn't expect the toy. I didn't even know any of this, but there was a problem. He didn't have food. He's my friend. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, but I had a sense of real abundance. I just said, I have enough food. He's my friend, and I'm pretty sure in the long run, these two friends will make more than one sandwich together. There's so much growth. And my dad, who usually was not very emotional, got very emotional because I'm sure he thought a lot about the war. He thought about how hard his life was in the US. And I'm sure he was thinking now as a father, wow, my 5-year-old boy, he's so wise. He's so wise, has so much courage, and he lives with such abundance. And these are the qualities that great entrepreneurs have, by the way. You have to have an abundance mindset. You have to have hope without being unrealistic about the fact that life as an entrepreneur, life as a person living in the world is not easy. So that moment of clarity as a kid, I remembered that feeling of being in that warehouse alone and saying, I know I'm right. I know I'm right. I don't care what the world says. I don't care that it's not as prestigious as having a fancy office in a private equity firm with my 2 Harvard degrees. It doesn't matter to me. I don't need them. And so it's ultimate form of agency, right? It's ultimate form of intrinsic motivation, confidence in a thesis, knowing you want to solve a problem for someone else. And that's usually what happens when you earnestly solve a problem for someone else, whether it's a family member or a client. Usually, if you listen well enough, you solve a problem for yourself. And you get to know yourself as well, too. And that's what happened during those 7 years. That's why it's called Red Helicopter. Yeah.
So the red helicopter is the metaphor, like, to represent something a lot bigger.
Yeah, it's a metaphor for agency, for truth, for human connectedness, for reality. It's a metaphor that is quite complex, but it's simple. And it's also, in a way, I'm approaching the world's problems right now with a very simple, almost childlike innocence, and asking people, what do you think is going on right now? Because most of the solutions in the world, they're just not that complicated. I found, generally speaking, very complex problems generally have very simple answers, and kids have much more perspective on that. It's one of my favorite cartoons is when there's a truck, it's stuck under a bridge, and you have the best engineers, the best construction workers, and they're really upset because they're saying, we're gonna have to take the entire bridge apart to get this truck out. And a kid comes up and says, why don't you just deflate the tires? It's so easy. And so I found that in my career, and I think a lot of people in the world, adults, unfortunately with adults, I'm an adult, I'm getting old, we mistake oftentimes experience and information and education for wisdom. And particularly in a time when the world is at a major inflection point, we have major innovation cycles, oftentimes past experience, past algorithms, hyper-confidence, it's actually a huge liability because these are new paradigms that are approaching. You have to approach it with childlike wonder. So that's why I call it Red Helicopter.
Very nice. Yeah. I mean, then you actually apply that into your business.
I did.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I did. I mean, this is a picture of business. Never made money. Didn't have Wi-Fi. There was no tech stack. not even Wi-Fi. Think about that mindset. When I asked them to put Wi-Fi in, they said, oh, we can't do that. Just think about how much fear there was in the culture. The capital markets in the US, legal systems in the US, they weren't designed to help this company. Right? This is not the most popular, sexy consumer base, employee base. Obviously during those times I thought about my parents a lot because as Asian immigrants, the United States was not designed for them to have an easy life either. And everyone thought the problem was unsolvable. Like it's just like this can't be solved because we were facing major problems, not just the company, but literally the entire design of the societal ecosystem is hot-wired for this company not to be successful. And so my approach to this situation, the best decision I made was to approach it with honesty and simplicity. I said, hi, everything you need, I'm not black, I'm not a woman, I've never been a retail CEO, I'm not fashionable, I'm not going to stay here forever. This is your company. I'm going to help you with your story, and then I'm going to go home. I said all the things that you're trained not to say. But the funny thing is, it was the most correct thing to say, because the women said to me, thank God you said that, because we actually trust you. We've been looking for actually the truth. And so they wanted the truth. And so I said, this is the truth. The truth is that you're out of money, and in 6 weeks you're going to be liquidated. And I'm a bankruptcy expert, and it's over. And I said, does that make you scared? And they said, no. It makes us motivated because we finally understand what the truth of the situation is. And I approached every problem-solving situation like that. It was, I can give you an example. So by the way, the whole world laughed at me, and they said no. And then I said, okay. So I called in favors, got the money, and I bought it. And I said, I'll stay and do this with the women because they were loyal to me. And loyal to them, and I just said, we're going to do this. So how do you even begin to solve this problem? So I'm not going to bore your listeners with the math that I did. I did some pretty cool hedge fund math on the inventory, which we can go into. It's less fun. But I had to create an environment where I was activating the best part of their brain, a non-fearful environment, which is why I talked about kindness. Right? I just said, listen, no matter how bad things are, we will treat people a certain way. We'll be mathematically honest. And we still may fail. But if we don't have this, we don't have anything. And so the second thing I said was really, you need to be well in this business. You can't come to work, you can't get hurt, right? Physically, mentally, emotionally. And so how did I start this? It's one thing to say it. I generally don't say a lot of things, I just say it once. And I do it. So symbolically, what I decided, we invested the biggest investment we made in the beginning. And remember, this company never made money, so people thought it was nuts. I invested in light bulbs. I discovered that one of the major reasons why the women were getting hurt, they were climbing ladders to change really bad, cheap light bulbs, and they were getting hurt. And I just said, oh. I said, that's not good. You can't get hurt. And they said, what are we going to do? So we bought the best light bulbs money could buy. They never required changing. I told the ladies, put the ladder in the closet. I don't want you to get hurt anymore. And so that little investment, it's childlike simplicity. Watch what happened, right? Now, this is MIT like feedback loops. No, these are reinforcing loops. All of a sudden, the clothes look better. The light is much whiter and cleaner. The customers notice. And in the evening, when it was dark out in the neighborhood, some of them were not safe. This was a safe environment. Our sales shot up during the evening. Everyone made more money. People were happy. The light was better. They wanted to take pictures of themselves. So we invested in the best in-store tech money could buy because we created a social media environment. And the customers all of a sudden became our best marketers. We cut our marketing expense. Social media went up to like well over 1 million users within a year. And all the while, the women are safer. They know I care about them very deeply. the insurance premium goes down, risk goes down, and all the savings from the decline in the risk, I paid out the savings in insurance. And I really explained to the women and to my colleagues, I said, do you see, even if you're not a stockholder, you are an owner in the behavior of this business, and this is how I'm paying you. That is what a kid would do and say, you can't solve everything and talk about this philosophically. It was what was the one or two very simple, tangible things, just like the tire deflating, that everyone understands that there's a deeper meaning. So that's a lot of my life, having owned a lot of brands. A brand is a very simple communication of a very complex set of emotions that a company solves. And so no different from a red helicopter. The light bulb is a very important decision or symbol in our success.
I mean, I see the kindness in that kind of investment. So do you always expect kindness gonna come back with good results, or sometimes you don't expect anything?
No, I think that's the sort of oxymoron of kindness. I mean, kindness is a non-transactional investment in somebody. And if you think about it very carefully, like how many people can you truly say that have been kind to you in your life? It's a very rare word. There are plenty of people who've been very nice to you. Like kind, like for me, my parents, particularly my mother, a couple of teachers, I have no idea. But when it happens now, this is 31 years later, it's an immense amount of joy. And so no, kindness is an investment. You're not expecting anything back, but in the back of your mind, you hope, right? That maybe someday something comes back. But if it doesn't, you made the right investment. You know, that's how I view it in investment terms.
You know what? When I look at the slide that have your book next to the Elon Musk book, he's got number 1 and you got number 2. Like if you look at the ways that Elon Musk doing, if you remember the first day he took over Twitter, he laid off like more than 1,000 or 3,800 employees immediately. So it seems like the way he's doing is just numbers, like he focus on number. And on the other side, if you focus on kindness, then I mean they are like very, very different. And if you look at what Elon Musk doing, he seems to be still very successful. So my question is, do we need kindness as a factor of success for business, or is it like something you choose to have in your career?
Well, I think kindness is always a choice. Right? So kindness is an investment in someone else's ability to make choices, so agency. So by definition, the act of kindness, it is a choice. Right? I'm not a saint either. Right? Sure, there are many things I want to say, want to do, but what kindness does, it makes you reflect on the fact that it's your responsibility first. Right? If you don't understand what I'm saying, it's not a matter of you don't understand what I'm saying. Maybe I'm not communicating it well. After a while, obviously, if I'm communicating it really well and you still don't get it, you don't get it. And even with Ashley Stewart, it's very clear in the book, after 6 months, 40% of the people were not asked to stay. Right? So it's not charity. Right? So kindness is actually very high expectations. What I'm saying is that if I invest in your agency, you have to embrace your agency, and I need to see the best of you. Not the best of me, my version of me, but of you. And if you don't want to put in the effort, if you're not curious, you're not interested in continuous improvement, you don't want to tell the truth, then you can't stay. I've never been not part of a very high performance environment. I mean, you read a lot of my background. That's not through laziness. It's not through suffering fools either, right? So when I say kindness and math, what I'm asking people is, number one, it's sort of bring out the best in people. Number two, kindness is a very human trait. We are living in a world right now where there is increasing decline of humanity. I don't think that's a great thing, particularly for my children. And I always talk about kindness and math. It's never kindness only. Mm. And when I say math, I mean math, right? I mean, this is like, math is a science, and I'm not talking about accounting. And so accounting is a convention, it's not truth. And so kindness and math, when you are asking these two things, I'm asking for the truth. Right? The most human thing, which is kindness, and math transcends humans. Math exists without humans. Right? It's like physics, it's laws of nature. So that's what I'm saying, so kindness and math. And in terms of what success is Elon successful? Sure, he's very successful. Financially, in the business, I'm not so sure I envy his success in other areas of his life. And so we each have to define what success is. And particularly as it relates to a country, businesses play a big role in a country's fortunes. So what you're seeing is that you have a lot of good numbers on things like GDP growth. Wow, it's great. But when you look at the sociological data that's not captured in GDP, there are a lot of suffering people right now. And I'm not so sure if I were the governor or the president of a country or a world, if I think that we as a human race right now are being particularly successful. And so you had asked me before, when I look at holistically people, circles grow, that's why the cover of the book are concentric circles. Growth concentrically with circles is much more sustainable than straight lines. Straight lines, they don't last forever. And there's only so much you can do to keep the line straight. But what you're not looking at is the accrued liabilities in the balance sheet. And so we're entering that world right now. It blew up in 2008. I was right in the middle of my private equity career. We forestalled a lot of this for 20 years. And we're seeing its reckoning right now.
So again, kindness is a choice.
It's always a choice.
A choice, yeah. So if we choose to be kind in doing business versus we are kind from our own nature instinct, how are they different? I mean, can kindness be a strategy with purpose?
I think we proved it out in the most difficult case there was in the United States. We could have done all of these things. Nothing would have happened if the customer base and the colleague base did not believe that we were investing in the well-being of their community. It wouldn't have happened. It failed so many times. People tried to buy success of that company, and it failed over and over again. And in terms of kindness, like I'll give you an example where kindness is almost same thing, reinforcing loop, kind of a fortuitous growth engine. So during the course of my tenure there, I'm a teacher, and so a lot of the women did not have the benefit of taking advanced finance, law, cognition, brain science. They didn't learn these things. Most people don't. By the way, these are the foundations of having agency, and we don't teach people. It's very easy to take advantage of people who don't understand these things, right? So I have an issue with that. I don't like to be successful winning by taking advantage of people who don't know. I'm confident in my abilities to, quote, win when we have full information. And so the women, I used to teach them. Part of their compensation was that CEO James would become teacher James, and I would say, let's learn accounting. Let's learn how brains work. This is what I would do and say, now you know what we're doing. And after a while, the women, many of whom are sort of middle-aged, older women, they said to me, you love us so much, we really appreciate it, but we wish we had learned this when we were younger. Can you go teach our kids? And so I said, of course. So as part of my job as CEO, I would visit schools once or twice a month that their children were in college at, and I taught. And so the kids started saying, wait a minute, this is where our mom works, or our mom's shops, or our auntie's shop. And they said, wow, this company is cool. And I said, oh yeah, how cool? They said, really cool. And I said, is it cool enough that if I introduced a young woman's juniors line, would you buy it? They said, totally. So we introduced a whole juniors line, and from our education ecosystem, we launched an entirely new product line that became 10% of our online business from that. And so did I think that we were going to sell clothes to the children of our customers? No. But oftentimes, these good investments, when they have to be, again, intrinsically motivated. It's good for the business. It's not charity. It's good for the community. Good things tend to happen to good actors, good actions. It may take longer than you want. And it's frustrating because we are living increasingly in a society that rewards short-term success. You've been at this for how long? Your business? How long?
19 years.
It's 19 years. I mean, you know, it's taken, everyone, I love when people say, wow, it's so successful, so quickly. And no, it's taken 19 years of deliberate, you made mistakes, you made good decisions, but like really strong cultures of high agency, high consideration, they win in the long term. You know, just look at some of the best investors in the world. I mean, he's deceased now, but when you really read Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger's letters, they may not say kindness, they are kind, right? It's very humble, they know what they don't know, they only invest in things where they feel like they have a point of view, they hire CEOs based on integrity, they let the CEOs have agency. This has been the bedrock of their whole investment philosophy. And it shouldn't surprise anyone on the podcast that Charlie Munger, who's now deceased, he was a huge student and aficionado also of Asian philosophy. Very longitudinal in nature, really understanding that you don't win in days and weeks, you win in generations, you win in centuries, you win in millennia. And that's much more of an Asian mindset than it is a Western mindset.
And you mentioned about kindness as an investment. Can you measure the effectiveness of kindness as an investment in business?
Yeah, so one of the ways is, I mentioned earlier about, I study actuarial data, which is really boring. No one wants to talk about like insurance. But with kindness, when you're really investing in behavior, financial statements don't measure behavior, they measure money. Behavior is in your actuarial data. The truth is there, that's how people behave. So when people say, oh, we've got a great culture, our people are so happy, how do you know? Well, we send them surveys. They tell us they're happy. Self-reported data. Self-reporting is just not accurate. Most academic studies, by the way, many, are self-reported. I don't put any credence in. Insurance data, longitudinal behavior, that's third party, where you're watching what people are actually doing. So I study that. You know? And so, you know, one of the things, for instance, at this company, at Ashley Stewart, you know, this sounds crazy, right? But one of the things, other than the light bulb, I prioritized family formation. None of the employees were having babies.
All right. Okay.
They weren't having babies. And it's clear, right? Why wouldn't you, if you want to have a baby and you're not having a baby, look what's happening, by the way, in the world with birth rates. You don't have a baby, intuitively, you don't feel hope. Right? You're very worried for the long term. You're not secure in your job. You don't feel confident in the company. The healthcare is terrible. You don't feel like you're going to get reemployed. You don't feel like dealing with the stress of being pregnant and people sort of saying, oh, she's. So I made a very high priority. I said, listen, if we want to have a company that's successful in the long term, and we're fulfilling our mission of having a sustainable community-based business. If you work full-time, why are you working so hard? If you want a family, you should have a family. I want to make it very easy for you to have a family.
You should get pregnant.
Yeah, if you want to have kids. And by the way, the other thing that happened is that it's also a matter of the fact that because the company was terrible for a while, as soon as we start becoming high growth and cool, a lot of the younger women wanted to join the company. And so we had tons of babies, a lot. And it required us to really have a systems view about how do we create an environment, a work environment, where family formation is encouraged and not sort of looked down upon, right? It's a sign of a healthy company. It makes you change many little things at the same time. So in terms of like systems design, there's not a linear binary keystroke, right? It's a bunch of intersected operational decisions that you're doing. And obviously it's also cultural, right? So you really have to sort of encourage it and say, this is a positive thing. That means our company is doing so well. You have so much confidence in the long term of the business. Go start a family. Awesome. I hope your kids work at the company too one day. How great will that be? And so you're right. So kindness is very longitudinal. And so if you think about it from a societal basis, if you believe there's no hope, if you believe that things are not going to get better, you're right. Being kind, you have less motivation to do it, right? You have much more motivation to be very fearful, to work through your limbic system. It's all primal reflex. This is now your amygdala talking. And all you want to do in that mode, you either want to fight or you want to run away. You certainly are not innovating. You certainly are investing for the future and long term. And that includes having a family, or it includes making long-term technology investments. If you really believe that things are going to be obsolete or irrelevant in a few years. Yeah. So kindness is not just, I'm encouraging this word globally because I'm asking this question implicitly. Do you believe longitudinally in the success of humanity? Are you that worried? Because if you're that worried, then you shouldn't be kind. I get it. You want to get out.
Yeah.
But I don't. I like planet Earth. I like humans, and this is what I'm doing.
So even kindness is a choice, but you need certain capabilities to be able to do that, right? You have to be at least mentally strong to be kind.
I think that's right. I mean, for me, that's why kindness is important, because it's a generational feedback loop. Clearly, my strength, my conviction, my courage, it comes from my parents. It does, particularly for me, my mom. So you can't do this without having had that. It's harder. It is harder. And so that's why human relationships are very important. When you have a breach in kindness, they are massive repercussions for down the line for generations. And as someone who's in the private sector, I often say this too. It's very hard to teach agency, to teach kindness, when you have not experienced that ever in your personal life. It is. And so that's why families are very important. That's why friends are very important. That's why balance of life. I work very hard, but that's why relationships outside of work are also very important. Like hobbies outside of work. People are more effective at work. And so I'm not a work by appearance type person, right? So big spurts of innovation, creativity don't happen correlated to hours, right? It's really freedom of thinking, it's creativity, which is why I spend all the time with music and art. It's just being in space where you are able to wander, like your mind's able to think about things. And again, that space of thinking, you cannot be in that space when you are fearful or angry, and that's not opinion, it's biological. So that's why kind environments are actually highly productive. It's non-fear-based environment. So I love when other people are not kind, because I'm like, you're gonna act scared. And I'm not. And my teammates are not. We're gonna act thoughtfully. And we're gonna plan for the long term, and you're gonna plan for the short term. You tend to do better over the long term because money compounds. That's one of the best feedback loops.
How do you manage your fear? You mentioned a lot, like you need to be fearless, to be kind. And how do you manage your fear?
Well, I'm not fearless, but I like the way you manage the second part. How do you manage the fear? Everyone has fear, right? Not everyone's human. And so, I had a unique experience in my 40s, which is what I write about. A lot of me died during my 40s. I had a lot of ego death. It's not just that my dad died and that my mom died. A lot of me died during my 40s. A lot of the things I felt so passionate about, like the credentials, the achievements, it died. And so it actually made me much stronger because I have less fear. A lot of fear, forget the physical fear, a lot of the other fear is ego-driven. Right? What's other people going to think of me? But this is what my business card says. I can't fail, or else people. I don't care. A lot of that died in my 40s, and it made me more, less fearful of things that I shouldn't be fearful of, like ego-driven fear.
And how did that happen?
The entire experience of, my 40s. To have conviction, to walk away from very high prestige, very high profile, to do what I did, that was not easy. But I got over it because, the way I grew up, I'm a son of Korean immigrants who they also tore up their resume coming to America. I'm a public school kid. Before I went to Harvard, there was nothing on my resume. It said James Rhee, pretty smart guy who went to high school. And so I don't really need the credentials. I'm really sort of beyond that at this point. So that's how I manage it. In terms of real fear, luckily I'm not in a position where I have a lot of physical fear. It's not because I'm a black belt in Taekwondo, but it's more, I'm not in a position where I'm fighting for my life like that. But I'm more, I breathe a lot. I play music, and I'm not afraid anymore to pause and make decisions, and also realize that some of the best decisions is doing nothing at all. And so that's the other thing that I've done to really manage things. I make very few decisions a day, right? It's a lot of thinking, a lot of prioritizing, and realizing that certain problems that come up that may cause me fear, they're only problems if I name them to be problems. Sometimes problems go away, right? And that's how I treat people too when they make mistakes. Sometimes the best thing is they'll fix the mistakes. Not always, right? There's certain, obviously, deadlines and there are certain things that have to be right. But more often than not, a lot of the little things that used to sort of annoy me, it doesn't annoy me anymore. You let them, they'll fix it. Right? So you don't name a problem, name a fear. Sometimes those things go away. And so that's the other thing I've learned in my old age.
For people at 40s, like me or any other entrepreneurs out there, we are trying to achieve more.
Yeah.
And I understand that to some point, we want to stop doing that and, to let go of the ego, like what you mentioned. But I don't know how. We all know we need to do something like that, but we don't know how. And we know that when we can do that, then we can gain a lot more confidence about ourselves. We can be kind, we can be our true self.
Yeah.
We don't have to wear any mask.
Yes.
So can you share with the entrepreneurs out there, how did you do that? I'm sure it's not like one day you think you need to let go of the ego or things like that. But maybe it's a process, or is it a practice, or is it something that happened to your life?
It's never a moment, it's always a like most things, it's a practice and it's a process.
Mm.
And I don't want your listeners to think you're sitting next to a saint, right? I'm not a monk with full enlightenment, right? So it's always a process. For me, it's been I'm 54 years old. It's been with loss of people, parents. Right? Generally speaking, from loss and death comes wisdom and growth. You need to have both. I've lost both my parents. You'll read in the book, I almost lost a child. During the time at Ashley Stewart, I lost a lot of ego. These are things that they happen. And yes, very practically speaking, did it help that the financial outcome and the belief of what I thought the business could do was right and that we did very well? Yeah, that felt pretty good to be right about it. But that was really big scoop of ice cream on the top of the pie. I was very content because the process of what we were doing was excellent. And then over time, the world recognized and said, there's a lot of value here. And I said, I know. Now you're gonna have to pay a lot. But even now, what I'm doing now, it's not unambitious about what I'm doing through a helicopter. To publish a book, you cross your fingers and hope it's good. I wrote a book that's weird, right? They told me it would fail because it doesn't fit a box. It's a parable. When they labeled it on Amazon, I think there are 27 separate classifications of the book, from Buddhist philosophy to leadership, to business management, to economics, to self-help, psychology. And people were certain it was going to fail because they said, that's not how algorithms work. You want to go narrow and deep, right? Pick one category. They didn't think it would be successful because how many published authors are there who are Asian who write about leadership? They didn't think it'd be successful because it was about my Korean parents and Asian philosophy with a group of black women. They didn't think it'd be successful. And I said, then you can't have my book. I won't write the book then. So many people wanted me to write a book that said, here are the 3 ways you can be the best, 5 ways to make a lot of money. That's ridiculous. This is what's wrong with our society right now. Everyone wants some sort of magic potion. It's a process. So you hit the nail on the head. The actual book, in and of itself, is a statement about how I believe human beings are. It is not subject to algorithms. It's not binary. It's very creative. It's very Asian.
Human.
It's very human, and yet ultimately the book was very successful. And it's spreading across the world in many different languages. I'm sitting with you in Vietnam. And just think about this. This is 14 months after the book's publication. I'm meeting a tremendous amount of really great people and really great friends that is bringing me a great deal of joy. There's a musical coming at Yale based on the book. It's the same process, right? That these things, as it's going, I'm learning, I'm hopeful, I'm not naive. I think these things are gonna come, but I'm not counting on it. I hope, right? And I sort of gently move them forward, and when the time is right, the world will let me know when it's time for it. So I'm being very patient. So during this time, do I have fear? Sure. I hope people like the book. I hope it helps them. I hope people don't think it's terrible. I hope it helps their company. Yeah, the book is also very personal, right? It's a lot of stories about my parents, and I was very sensitive to that because if they were alive, they might say, yeah, don't write about us. But I wanted the world to know about their stories because I think the lives of my parents are so symbolic of a lot of our parents and grandparents from that generation. Those stories have never been published. They should be published. And so that's why the way I wrote the book, as much as it's about my parents, everything's symbolic. And I hope when you read the book, you'll see yourself in it, you'll see your family in it. There are not enough of these stories that have been published. And that's a matter of power, frankly. And that's something that I hope to change over the next 50, 60 years. Because it has to.
Yeah. Say, if some entrepreneur out there is read your book and want to follow your methodologies, like applying kindness in business, what's the first step should they do?
After they read the book?
After they read the book.
They really need to understand what their red helicopter story is. Their personal story, why they're doing it. It's a highly agency story, because if you don't know your story and you can't communicate it very vividly, memorably, succinctly, people pay attention to it. No one pays attention to anybody anymore. You have 6 seconds, right, to really. If you can't tell your own story, then you can't tell the story of your company. You can't, not effectively. So the first thing I ask entrepreneurs, when I meet a lot of entrepreneurs, they ask me to invest, I ask them, tell me your red helicopter story, I want to hear it. And after I hear it, then I say, now tell me the red helicopter story of your company. And then just like the music we were listening to earlier, these two stories should be in counterpoint. They should be melodic together. And I listen for that. So it's that. And a key story, again, it's brain science. It has to involve a problem, solving it, coming back and sharing it with the rest of people and saying, look, I solved the problem. Don't you have this problem too? That's the core of any classic Greek tragic story, any hero's journey. It's a very simple structure, but it's very hard, right? So I look for, that's the first step. And then I ask them, tell me what the story looks like in words. Tell me what it looks like in pictures. Tell me what it looks like in a video, in a 1 minute short, a 3 minute short, a 5 minute short. Show me. Tell me what it sounds like. And if you can really do that and encapsulate a story like this, then I say, well, now let's look at the story of your operations. Tell me how you're going to do it. Show me the math. Show me your gross margins. Let's see what it looks like. And then once you see the math, show me what the story looks like from the supply chain side. Show me the people doing it. Let me see the org theory. And all of these stories should be relatively consonant. They should match. That's why the book has the concentric circles on top. Anyway, I've applied this methodology to many companies. Right, as a private equity investor, this is what I ask people.
Is your concept of red helicopter change in AI era?
No, I'm doing red helicopter because of the AI era, right? So I've spent most of my career involved in, say, money. Money is a form of leverage, right? To do things that you want to do, to solve problems you want to create. I try to always treat money as a source of leverage to solve problems that humans want to be solved. And if you do it well, oftentimes you get rewarded not just with money, but a lot of other things too, which we've talked about, right? AI is another form of leverage. Technology is a form of leverage, right? So you can either treat it in one of two ways: a priority in and of itself, that how cool, look at this. Or you can look at AI as a form of leverage of helping people who might not have agency, or people to augment their agency. AI could be an incredible tool. That's why I'm writing the book, because not everyone agrees 100% either way. Some people, I think, it's much more, wow, AI can perhaps replace agency. Because wow, human beings, they keep making mistakes. It's centuries and centuries of war and pestilence and making mistakes. Maybe machines can do better. And I know that because I have a lot of friends in technology who think like that. I don't live like that. So I hope that there are more technologists who say, wow, look how ingenious humans are. we can use this tool, particularly in medical research, I think, to really solve problems that humans couldn't solve and make people healthier. And that's an incredible use of AI. I'm warning the world and also hopeful that the world wants to augment human agency with AI. I'm not particularly enthusiastic about a world that's replacing human agency with technology.
But I mean, if you look at business, it's like entrepreneurs now both excited and scared about the rapid change of AI.
Yes.
Like, because AI can sometimes or soon, to be honest, replace some part of the work.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of attrition. I mean, we're in the beginning of a loss of a lot of jobs. And one of the reasons why the concept of agency is very important at work, I tell people, again, performance environment, listen, if you're not adding value at work, you should be worried. Right? It is not a government, it is a business. You should be worried. Having high agency, solving problems, having initiative, this will help you add value. And increasingly, if you look at where, Reid Hoffman wrote about this. I mean, I just keynoted the Business School Dean's Conference this year. They asked me, what should we be teaching our students? And I said, well, look, a couple things. You want to teach students, and Elon is this, by the way, to be polymaths. You have to be very multidisciplined to understand weaving together principles from many different places. It's much harder for a machine to do that. Machines are brilliant vertically. Lateral, like to really, when I said, show me it in music, show me it in color, it's not easy. Still not there. One day maybe. Second thing is, there's a big asterisk, right? They say, empathetic human leadership. The soft things. The soft things are always the hardest things.
Kindness.
It's kindness. Will people trust you? What's the feeling of it? And so when you think about going back to the Ashley Stewart story, people don't ask me this enough. Why did these Black women trust you? It was a feeling. They knew, right? Why did Howard University, which is the biggest Black university in America, I'm their first Asian chair. Why? Right? So these intangible human qualities, they've always been important. In the future, they will be increasingly important because there are going to be a lot of things that humans do now that machines will do better. That's it. And so this is not me being, be kind. I'm also saying this is going to be a very important work strategic advantage for you to have. Right? So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, my last questions require you to wear back your high school teacher hat. And all those Gen Alpha kids out there, they watching short every day, they living in the rapid changing world. What's your advice to them?
I was just with a group of Gen Alphas right before visiting you. I was at a high school.
Right.
And then yesterday I spent time with that age too.
Right.
International kids, and also a large number of Vietnamese kids. I'll tell you what I told them. A lot of this is what we've talked about. I talked about making sure they understood what agency meant. I gave them assurance that some of the fears that they had or sense of uneasiness were not unfounded, that we were going to enter into, and we're already there, it's a high degree of volatility and turbulence, that their path over the next 30 years is not going to be as easy as mine was. In many ways, I've had much more of a Gen A life. I've had so many jobs, so many roles. I think they're going to live a little bit more like me, right? It's much more here, 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 here. And so they laughed, and that gave them comfort. And I really reminded them that there are a lot of people out there and a lot of sources of technology that would be more than happy for them to not have agency. And why would they give it up? And to be really smart about understanding how their brain works. Like if they don't understand basic cognitive science, they don't understand what the entire world is doing to their head on their phone. And it really troubles me. I told them that too. It troubles me that we as human beings are not requiring knowledge of how your brain works. Every single child in this world. And I know why, again, because it's very easy to take advantage of people who don't know how their brain works. And I don't live like that. I don't make money that way. I won't do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for joining my first podcast. Yeah, I hope you can spread out the spirit of kindness and methodology, not just to the entrepreneurs like us, but also to the younger generations as well.